And that was By My Side, just a beautiful piece of music by In Excess from 1991, my favourite In Excess song by some distance. One of the people who contributed to that song as songwriter and also musician is a chap called Andrew Farriss, and you never guess what, he's on the phone. Hello, Andrew.
Hello, Neil. How are you?
Great. What a thrill to speak to you, and what a beautiful piece of music that is, By My Side.
Yeah, thanks, mate. I appreciate that. Yeah.
Take us back to, I think, Perth. Was that where you started life, in Perth?
Yeah, I opened my eyes and I was born in near Cottesloe Beach,
Oh, beautiful spot.
near the OBH. Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, right on the sort of very near the beach, and I think it's a hospital that the Americans had built for wounded, uh, Yanks and Aussies during World War II.
Okay.
And yeah, and at least I think so. My mum and dad have passed away now, so I can't ask them again.
Okay.
But that's sure that's what they told me, and I think it's on my birth certificate. Anyway,
Oh, that'll do.
but the point, yeah, that'll do. Yeah, but yeah, and that's right. And then I a little bit of history about Andrew Farriss's early life.
Yep.
Yeah, I've got two brothers, elder brother Tim, younger brother John, and a younger sister Alison. And then ended up, Ali didn't want to play music, but my two brothers and I hacked away at it. And but yeah, and then my father, or their father too,
Yes.
Dennis
Yeah.
Farriss, yeah, he was originally from London.
Yep.
Croydon, yeah. And at the end of World War II, he was on aircraft carriers, and then he came out to Australia.
Yep.
And he hadn't been back to see, his parents or my British grandparents.
Yeah.
15 years. So Dad put us on a ship because in 1964, you didn't fly everywhere unless you were a president, pope, or a priest, or all the same, or the military, or very, very rich. You got on a ship. You know? So for 3 weeks, we went round, up through the side of Aden, and then through the Suez Canal to London. Yeah, when we were little kids, and then because Australians didn't travel as much then, some people had heard we were in town, and also some of our British family. And so they said, well, why don't you come down to the BBC and watch this television program? So we went, oh, that sounds great. So they sat us down the front row, my brothers and I, black shoes, long white socks, and grey shorts, and whatever. And out walks the Beatles.
Wow. And they could play music, couldn't they? As I remember, they were a reasonably successful band out of England.
Yeah, they did pretty well.
Yeah.
And then so we said to Dad afterwards, Dad, did that actually happen later on? Like when my brother and I were talking about it, and he said, yeah, you were there, and then afterwards he went and talked to him.
Okay,
so we did,
yeah.
So. But I guess when I think about all that, the coincidence is kind of odd because the random, odd part of this conversation is the three of us guys ended up in a very successful international group.
Yeah.
But the reason we went there wasn't to see the Beatles. It was to see our grandparents. Do you know that?
Yeah, absolutely. So you ultimately came back to Sydney. Is that where you ended up?
Yeah, Dad Dennis got a job promotion. Ended up running an insurance company called Legal and General, and they wanted him in New South Wales. And I remember driving over the Harbour Bridge when I was about 12 something and going, this is the biggest thing I've seen in Australia in my life. And it was about 1970 or something.
Yeah.
But it was all pretty amazing. And then cut a long story short, that's how I ended up meeting Michael, because we were both ended up in the same high school.
So, the whole thing about serendipity, you're born on the other side of Australia and suddenly you end up in the same class at school is quite extraordinary, isn't it? And and we don't want to dwell a lot on the INXS story because it's been told a lot of times, but we couldn't not talk about INXS. Subsequent to INXS, obviously we know the very sad story of Michael, and then, trying with, I think it was John Stevens, spent a bit of time with you at singing with you.
Yeah, mainly playing some shows with us, and John's a great singer, know, and that was good. I mean, I just think we were really kind of struggling a little bit because Michael was such a charismatic person as a front man. He was a great singer,
Yeah.
A great songwriter. He and I probably wrote about 300 songs together, Michael and I, and at least. But I think, when I look back on it all, I think a bit about it. I think as I get older, I just miss him. I don't miss it's not the fame part of it that's so important to me anymore. I just miss the guy.
Yeah, one of your schoolmates. I mean, we're all at that age, aren't we, that we're thinking back about the people we went to school with and so on?
That's right.
Yeah, absolutely. So, subsequent to that, you've obviously done a bit of songwriting and a bit of performing. You spend quite a bit of time in the United States, where I'm talking to you now, folks. We're talking. Andrew is in Nashville, I think, at the moment as I'm speaking to him. It's a bit hard to tell by the background because it looks like a wall, but that's okay. So, you've done a bit of solo work. 2021, I think it was, your first solo album came out, and I would have thought if you had said to the folks who were your big INXS fans in the late 80s, oh, he'll be singing country, they might have looked at me a bit funny and said, come on, give us a spell.
Yeah, that's right. Well, my comment about that, and I think that you'd mentioned before, which is kind of you, that you like my song Come Midnight, right? And would you believe I wrote that song around about the same time as the other song that you mentioned, like By My Side? I think I wrote it around about then.
Okay.
Come Midnight, back then.
Yeah.
And it was, or maybe slightly before By My Side, actually.
Okay. Yeah.
But I'm trying to give people, if anyone's interested in this conversation, a bit of a time scale from me as a writer, is that I'll record something I've written I'm comfortable with, I wrote last week.
Yeah.
I'll go and record it, and then I'll go back into a lot of my older work sometimes, and I go, you're a bit like a lawnmower you tried to put back together again. You didn't know what you're doing.
Yeah.
It's a bit like that, and I'll go back and look at it and go, oh, I get it now. I should have done that, or I should have done this, and then that's how I work as a songwriter. I'm pretty sort of, someone asked me once, are you interested in engineering? And I knew exactly what they were talking about. They meant bridges and construction. They weren't talking about electrical engineering.
Yeah.
And I said, that's funny. I am actually. I am interested in that kind of stuff, of what makes things work and how things function. And that's partly the way I work as a songwriter.
So if you're an aspiring songwriter and you're listening to this, folks, go and buy yourself an old motor mower, I think is the advice that Andrew's given you, and you won't ever have a problem. You'll be really, really successful.
Don't blame me if it doesn't work. Now, come on. Yeah.
Well, can we pause for a moment then, Andrew, and we'll take a listen to the song Come Midnight off your debut album, debut solo album, obviously, from 2021. Yep. You're listening to Two Blokes Chatting radio show. My guest today, my very special guest, is Andrew Farriss. We'll be back soon. And that was Come Midnight by Andrew Farriss off his debut album in 2021. The album, funnily enough, was called Andrew Farriss, which is a really sensible name for the album. I'm with Andrew as we speak. Now, Andrew, you have just released another album, and that is called The Prospector. But it was a reasonably big day, the 10th of July, wasn't it?
Yeah, it ended up being. That's right, Neil. Basically, my album, The Prospector, is released the same day as I'm performing at the Opry, so I was very, very fortunate, that occurred.
Yeah.
And it went great. It's fantastic. So
the Grand Ole Opry, we've heard about this thing, and can you just give us a sense of how big it is for any musician, but for an Australian boy from Sydney, brackets, he was born in Perth, close brackets, it must just be an extraordinary experience. Tell us what the Grand Ole Opry is and what it means to be a performer there.
Yeah, well, first of all, it's an institution, American country music institution. I think it's been running since the 1920s or somewhere around there.
Yeah, wow.
1930s or something. But, it's just been a place that people aspire to be able to perform on that stage.
Yeah.
And I've been there myself, in the audience just to go and watch other people. And when I first thought of taking on, the country music and, well, Americana and folk music that I'm writing and performing now, when I first took it on, I went there to see what all these institutions were,
and
then how they work, and now I'm doing it. Yeah.
Because
So yeah.
we hear names like Johnny Cash. We're not mucking around the edges. We're talking about really serious America. Carl Perkins, all those people that were just amazing American artists. And, the young fella from the suburbs of Sydney gets up there and do the Americans look at you as some kind of novelty because you're from Australia, or are they warm and embracing, or are they going, what are you doing on our stage? Go away. What's the sort of reception Australians get? Not you specifically.
Well, as a generalization, I think American audiences are great.
Yeah.
And they show a lot of respect for anyone that gets up on stage, and they encourage you to be successful. You know, being successful in America is what people try and do for each other.
Yeah.
And that's what they're all about.
Yeah.
But I think to try and imagine what people are thinking when they're watching me perform and I'm singing and I'm playing songs that I've written in this particular genre on that particular stage.
Yeah.
I'm just conscious in my mind all the time of respecting where I am and the culture that's gone before me, and the people are on the stage with me at the same night,
Mm-hmm.
There will be a couple of legendary people on stage with me on the night I was there on the 10th, but it's like T. Graham Brown and Connie Smith. These are older people from the country music scene in the United States. And so I found it really interesting because it's not what I thought it was going to be.
Okay.
Well, the first time I performed there on December the 14th, 2024, it wasn't what I thought it was going to be. It's actually really exciting place, great audiences. I think they want you to do well. And if I keep that in my mind when I'm out there performing, then I'll probably do okay.
Yeah. And so is it like a big theatre, is it? Is that like indoor, I assume?
Yeah, it's an indoor theatre, and they've taken a circle of the original floorboards from the Ryman, which is an ancient building where a lot of it, the very early years of country music, they actually took some of the floor and they put it into this magnificent big theatre, And so, but they've kept the institution going. It's never stopped. They just moved part of the floor.
Okay.
But sure, I often wonder what they make of me or think of me, but also what they think of Australians. I think there's something to keep in mind for Australians is, every time you leave Australia and you go to a different country, your behavior is representing Australia.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter whether you're famous or not.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think the absolute indicator of whether they respect Australians is you were asked back a second time. That's always a good sign, isn't it?
Yeah, they didn't pull the lever to let me drop through the floorboards. Yeah, but I think they're also, if you look at the broader picture of American entertainment, full stop, with its history, its music history, not just country music, but all kinds of music that have come out of the United States, jazz and blues and rock and, Elvis and everything, Frank Sinatra, and then you look at Hollywood, the entertainment, what they created with all of that. I think I'd say there was one very big difference between America and Australia. Mm-hmm. It's not that Australians can't do what those guys do. It's mainly because our government doesn't take it seriously as an industry.
Yeah.
They don't get behind it and encourage and put money into it. They just expect us all to carry our own hay on the back of our own trucks,
Yeah.
That's what they expect. And that's what they get. That's why our industry could be so much more successful, overseas, not just as exports out of Australia, but even just for people wanting to go to Australia, because we become really, really, into the industry of entertainment. I'll give you an example, Ronald Reagan, right, was the president of the United States. He was also a film actor, wasn't he?
Yes, he was. Yes.
That's right. And that's one of the big differences between, think about it carefully, with who runs our country in Australia and where their backgrounds are from. They have a completely different idea of a lot of things. Look, I don't want to get too into politics. There's a lot of things I think I don't want to say.
Yeah.
But anyway, I just want to say that Australians punch pretty hard for our population size
Yeah.
as entertainers, and I'm really proud of that as an Australian. When I performed the first time at the Grand Ole Opry in 2024, I invited Keith Urban to come up on stage with me because I'd met Keith
Yep.
2 or 3 times before in my life, and so he's a friend of mine, and I invited him, and he said, "Yeah, I'll get up on stage with you," and that was a really great thing that Keith did for me too, because he's very popular here in the United States, and that's really nice of Keith to do that.
It shows the Aussies together. We're fighting together. Yeah, and I think what you're saying about the government not supporting it. It's things like even something as silly as the taxes on pubs that mean that pubs, it doesn't make sense for them to have live music anymore. I can remember, now you and I are going to show how old we are here. I remember your band, a band called In Excess. They were a little outfit from Sydney in those days that used to bounce around places like the Donny Inn in Melbourne and the Southside Six. And I think I'm right in saying bands from Sydney could come down to Melbourne for 2 weeks and play at 12 different venues in pubs and get not only some exposure, but some experience. That's just not there anymore.
No, that's right now. And again, well, you just summed it up really, is that if, the music industry was supported by government, and encouraged and it's for example, it's very difficult to even be in a band in Australia anymore, to form a band of musicians, because no one gets paid enough. To pay the rent or buy food.
Yes.
And so they can't be in a band. And that's why you see this pop phenomena and reality television shows with a curtain and a singer on stage. That's what it's turned into.
Yes. I was thinking about this the other day. Go back to the 70s and 80s, and all the big acts, I'll use that expression, were bands. Whether it was coming out of the UK with Queen and Dire Straits, or coming out of the US, or coming out of Australia, In Excess and Dragon and all those kind of bands. Now, when was the last time a number one hit in Australia was by a band?
Well, that's, I just it doesn't make me so much angry. I just think it's really stupid that people don't get behind, the industry more and help younger people. Like, where's the next generation of successful Australian musicians, songwriters, artists, performers? Who's out there encouraging those people and fighting for them?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's the question, isn't it?
Well, Andrew, we had better let you go because it's late afternoon. You're probably wanting to go and organise some dinner or something for you. So let us tell people about this amazing new album that came out a couple of weeks ago called The Prospector. I'm assuming it's available on all the usual streaming services. Can people buy a physical copy of it?
Yeah, actually, I put a lot of work into the physical copy of my album, The Prospector. I've done it again. I'm making vinyl again. Nice. I did it with my first album, which is called Andrew Farriss, because I got no imagination. But this one is called The Prospector, and it has a vinyl as well. But on all of my vinyl records, I'm going to release, have done already, and this one will be the same. And other future albums I may put out will all have the Zeotropes on the vinyl.
Okay.
They're artists' works.
Mm-hmm.
There's an artist that works with myself and my wife.
Yeah.
And she works on the Zeotropes on the vinyl.
Nice. Well, where can people buy it? Through your website, I'm assuming, can they?
andrewfarriss.com. And you can also buy CDs as well, but all the DSPs and the normal digital age stuff is all available. Yeah.
Well, glad that you put most of your creativity into songwriting and performing, because andrewfarriss.com, album's called Andrew Farriss. That bit wasn't terribly imaginative.
Yeah, well, there's nothing like product alignment.
There is that. I'll give you that. Yeah, no, that's fair enough. We are going to hear a song that came out. It was the first single off this new album. The album, again, folks, The Prospector. We're going to hear a song called Rolling Home. Now, if you are keen to see Andrew performing in Victoria, it literally is a one-night-only event. We hear that all the time, but this literally is one night only at Cardinia, the Cardinia Cultural Centre, which is on the other side of Melbourne to where we are. That's in early August.
August 9th.
August 9th, and you can get tickets through the aforementioned andrewfarriss.com. And get along and say good day to Andrew and listen to some really, really top-line Australian country music. It's going to be great.
Yeah, good on you. All right. Well, Neil, have a great day and nice to meet you, mate.
Thank you very much. And here we are. It is Rolling Home by Andrew Farriss.